I'm Dusty. Joining me as always is our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, let's start off with Apple. New toys. And I'm actually
Oh,
excited.
I think this is hilarious because a couple of weeks ago I was having a gripe about Apple not even trying anymore with their presentations. It's almost like they went, hold my beer.
Yes.
They had
Tim
nothing.
Cook was watching you on Tech Radio and he went, I'm going to show him.
I'll show him we're not going to do anything and release actually interesting products. Take that.
So you're impressed. What has impressed you first off?
What has impressed me first off? Okay. The I'm going to call it the return of the MacBook Air. It's not really a return. I mean, it's the one of
But
the
I know
world's
what you
most
mean.
popular
Yeah,
laptops.
it's wantable again.
It is wantable again. For two reasons. One is the new M4 chip, which means that they're thinking forward with it. They're looking at, okay, this thing has to be ready for Apple Intelligence. They've also got that primo build quality that you can expect from Apple, so you'll get quite a few years out of it. But, and here's the good news, it is affordable once again.
If
It's
they've
under a
made it
thousand euro.
exactly. Well, now hang on. Don't run away with yourself because you're looking at the American price for a start, which doesn't include tax. So it's the same price in Ireland. It's probably €999 plus VAT,
Plus
bringing it up
VAT.
to a
Yeah,
night. They
yeah.
rounded it up. How kind of them, to €1,249 exactly for the base model. Now, I haven't seen a MacBook Air at 1249 in a long time, and I think that is just the right price, especially if you are with a company or you're running your own company, and if you want one for your company, you have to go into the boss and say it's only 999 plus VAT. All right.
It's only.
Only, all right. But even at that, I mean, for €1,000 plus that, sorry, off I go. Listen, even for 1,250 quid, right, for a really high end, super light, powerful laptop, that is stunning value for money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty
It's
good.
stunning value for money. Even when you pack it up against all of the competition and what the competition are doing, it's stunning value for money.
Yeah. So let's go through a couple of other things that are nice with it. Once again, you've got a choice of 13-inch or 15-inch displays. I
Yep.
would go with a 15.
Oh, I'd go
Um,
13.
would you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because it's a light. You want a light laptop because you're carrying it around everywhere. Make
Yeah.
that thing as light as possible. Believe me, if it's half a kilo lighter, you will notice it.
Probably, yeah. But as you know, I have to do a lot of graphics work in my job, and I appreciate the extra real estate on the screen. If I was just doing documents all day long, by all means, yeah, 13-inch will more than do the job. Well, not more than do the job, but it will do the job comfortably.
You see,
Go on, you.
no, I'm just thinking with the graphic side of things, because I'm the same with audio and video editing and stuff. I don't want to do that on a 13-inch screen. I like having the Air, and I had an Air for a long time, and it was great because I was hawking around the world, literally, right, on my back. So the lightness of it was fantastic. The power of it was brilliant, and I was able to do all of my stuff on it. I wasn't a fan of doing the audio and video editing on it, all right, for that very reason. The screen was so small. But the solution is to plug it in on one of the Thunderbolt ports into a bigger monitor, and then
Yeah,
that solved. So you've
yeah,
got instant portability, big screen.
yeah, yeah. Fan of that solution. I do miss having a second screen at home. I have a second screen in work, and definitely get the benefit of it. It's better for your posture, I find, as well. But anyway, that's an ergonomics thing. So another thing about the M4, it is claiming to be twice as fast as the M1, and also will deliver 18 hours of battery life, which I find interesting. That sort of made me sit up and go, okay, right. Put your money where your mouth is on that one. And because Apple love to talk aesthetics, we have lost Space Gray. Space Gray has left the building, but we
What
have
has it
something
been
called
replaced with?
Sky Blue. So you can get your rose gold, your sky blue,
Wow.
your yeah.
It all sounds so dreamy and romantic. Exactly what you want on a laptop.
Exactly what you want in a laptop. Exactly.
Listen, tell me about, before we move on to the iPads, I need to ask you about the Mac Studio, because that was released this week as well. Everything seems to have an M4. It's all M4, except the Mac Studio is M3. What's the story?
No, one of them is M4 and the other is M3 Ultra, which is what they're calling it now. I have looked into briefly why this is the case, and it's not just, ridiculous branding. Apparently a deadline was missed, and that's why we don't have a version of the M4. You can have a version of the M3. Go for that. So that's where the M3 Ultra has come from. Right. So the Mac Studio, this is your jam. You saw this when it first came out and you thought, yep, this is a fantastic piece of machinery. This is the Mac that I want, except for one terrible design decision, which is putting the power switch on the base.
They haven't done that with the Studio, have they?
Well, that's what you told me they did. Which model was that? Was it?
Sorry,
was it
no, they did that with the Mac Mini, the M4 Mac Mini. Dreadful. I don't think they've done it with the Studio.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think they, again, Tim Cook was watching our podcast and he heard me giving out about what a stupid idea was to put a power button on the bottom of a computer, and he listened. Okay,
I stand corrected. Still a fairly pricey bit of equipment, though.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, $2,500 to start. This is not for a home user.
Oh,
the iMac is for that. One thing that I quite like about Apple, and they take a lot of heat on it, just because of I always go on about the male imperative of going for anything called Pro on the end of it, and assuming that this is the more masculine version of the product. Not the case. Apple is pretty good at coming up with machines that service specific categories, and if you don't fall into it, there's no point in you getting it.
So we know that.
Unless you're an AV professional, there is no point in getting a Mac Studio. If you're a gamer, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's not the machine for you. Don't go forking out $2,500. So
I know people they do run games on Apple machines, but not as many people do it, and it's not like oh wow, it's kind of it performs all right, but I don't think so. I'm just looking at the specs for the $2,500 Studio. You get a 14-core CPU, 32-core GPU. You get a 16-core neural engine. You get 36 gigs of RAM. This is all the basics. I still find it amazing that in a really high-end, powerful computer like that, they only give you 500 gigs as standard. Anyways, yeah.
Well, that leads into one of our other stories. But anyway, we will put a finger in that for now.
All right, tell me about the iPads.
Yeah, iPads. We've got two versions. We of course have one coming out with an M4 chip. That is the iPad Air. I think the Air is a perfectly fine product. I have no complaints with it whatsoever. Again, the only upgrade that is of interest to me is the fact that it's an M4. That is kind of the end all with me.
Okay.
As we know, I mean, the iPad pretty much sells itself at this point. You either want a decent tablet or you don't. I mean, do you, Dusty? Do you want a decent tablet?
I rarely use tablets, so really? I wouldn't be in the market for it.
I use my tablet more than my laptop.
I have a Samsung laptop, and it will fold over 360 degrees, so I can use it like a laptop. Or like a tablet, I should say. Should I choose?
Should you choose?
But I don't even do that very often. So no, not really. I use my phone. The phones are just good enough for. Anyways, however, the iPad 11.
iPad 11, yeah. Let me just go through some specs here. Actually, that was the iPad Air. Sort of
all right.
The end all be all. It's nice, and it starts at €669. Yeah, that's a bit ouch. You can pre-order it for $729, so yeah, it was six and change for before VAT. And of course, we know that if you happen to buy one of these bad boys, you're probably gonna fork out another 300 odd euro for the official keyboard and cover,
and so on. So,
just
but
just
look,
buy a just
we know
yeah,
the way it is, and the
buy a
Apple Wall
third party.
Garden and all that kind
You'll
of
be
stuff.
fine.
Another story.
But yeah, so the Air M3 chip. Yeah, looking towards Apple Intelligence again. That's what it's all about. However, if you go for the newly released 11th generation iPad, which of course is just called iPad, starting at €419. Hey, that sounds much more affordable to the rest of us. It too has a folio case that you can drool over for a ridiculous amount of money, but it is using an A16 chip. So kind of talking down the benefits of it there. I think this will turn into if you can take or leave Apple Intelligence, fine. This is probably the device for you.
Apple Intelligence is out in the world now, yeah? Is it out in the world in Europe?
There was an argument over that.
I know there was, and they were holding back on it. So I'm not sure. Look, I'm not an Apple user in that sense, so I don't know. But I haven't heard people jumping up and down for joy about how amazing Apple Intelligence is.
Yeah.
So
no, as of right now, it is not available in the EU.
That's what I thought. Anyway, it will come one day and we'll have a play with it. Other Apple news this week, just to wrap up very, very quickly. They were in a lawsuit in the States, which we covered before, where it was a class action lawsuit where the people were saying that Apple monopolized cloud storage and that they had to pay for iCloud storage, and they were really annoyed about that. So it all went to court, and the judge came back and went, I rule in favor of Apple for a couple of reasons. And I actually agree with the judge. You're not required to buy storage on an iCloud with an Apple device. It may work best with iCloud, but you're not required to buy it with iCloud. So you can back up your photos and videos, whatever. If you want to do it to Dropbox or wherever, you can do, right? So that kind of ruled that bit out. The judge said that iCloud is not the only cloud provider in the world. There are plenty of other providers, so there is no monopoly there. The bit that made me laugh at the end was the judge said, I would have thought that Apple's high prices would be an incentive for rivals.
And that's why Apple have only 15% of the PC market. They do what they do. They do what they do pretty well.
Absolutely.
It's expensive.
Listen, let's move on to something much, much, much bigger, and that is the Don is having a big announcement on, it'll be Friday afternoon, Friday evening, our time, where he's going to announce a crypto reserve, so he said. I've been watching this, right? And this happened after our last show, and in just 7 days, okay, kind of Bitcoin was just plodding along, doing whatever, mid-90s. Or was it? I can't remember.
No, it had just crashed.
No. It was. Trump had announced at a weekend, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. He said, "Yeah, we're going to have." That's what it was. We're going to have a crypto reserve. All right. Plans will be announced shortly, and the price of Bitcoin shot up because everybody went, "Yay!" And then the next day he went, "And we're going to slap 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico," and everybody went,
"It's a little bit more complicated than that." I mean, yes. Trump's rhetoric around Bitcoin goes back to last July when he said Bitcoin capital of the world, and everyone loved that, and everyone thought Trump was a wonderful advocate for Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up when he was elected, and it was a lot of hand rubbing and an awful lot of yay, we're going to get this reserve. Crypto is going to go, it's going to go legit. We've got a bit of an outlaw in the White House who's going to look after us. He has subsequently appointed a crypto czar, David Sachs, a guy from the world of finance, so he knows his stuff. And things were going up, and then nothing happened. And then people were like, is this just a pump and dump scam? Like, is this ridiculous? Because Trump released his own meme coin. Guess what? It lost its value very, very quickly. We talked about that last week, same with Melania. And the value of crypto across the board started to go down. I think it peaked well, sorry, was at its worst at like 72 grand or something
Well,
like that on
that
Bitcoin.
was after he announced that he was definitely putting in the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico.
Right, right.
So and everybody just lost their poop.
Lost their mind.
Exactly,
Lost their
and they went
minds.
right, get rid. And this is what makes Bitcoin so volatile. In that it just takes one announcement here for it to lose a whole load of value, and then an announcement the next day for it to increase. And that's
And
what happened last
that is the
weekend.
problem, yeah.
He announced that he was going to be talking about crypto reserve, and the price went up. And then 2 days later, he talked about the tariffs, and then
Yeah.
woof, it died. So it's been bouncing between kind of mid 90s and mid 70s.
Yeah, yeah. There's been huge variance in the price. So, and I think this is not a coincidence that tomorrow, Friday, is going to see a Bitcoin summit in the White House, chaired by Mr. Sachs. And we don't know actually what the outcome of it is going to be. It could be something as great as, okay, we are buying X amount of Bitcoin. The value of it is going to shoot up. Everybody will be delighted. This is going to be our national reserve Bitcoin. And that's it. Job done. Promises made, promises kept. Let's move on. Now, there's a couple of interesting things in this. When the statement went out saying, yeah, we're building up a Bitcoin national reserve, they talked about certain currencies. They talked about XRP, Solana, where Trump coin lives, or $ Trump lives, ADA, and of course, later he added Bitcoin and Ethereum. But here's the thing, right? What is the most salient thing about cryptocurrencies that they harp on forever about when it comes to crypto? What is the most important thing about crypto?
There's nothing behind it, is one of the things that they always say.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they say it's untraceable money,
Yeah.
which of course is not true. Everybody says it's shaky as hell. It's volatile. I'm not putting my money into that because it could die tomorrow. There's nothing behind it. And then other people go, it's going to go to the moon.
Yeah. So, two things, and you're exactly right. One of which, you are quite right. It is backed by nothing. It is backed by sentiment only. And, the idea being that if the US government throws its weight behind it, this means that we're going legit. It's going to be great. However, so many people on crypto are like, wait a minute here. This is completely anathema to what we were meant to be about. We were meant to be beyond government control. And now you're celebrating the fact that we're coming under government control. This makes no sense whatsoever. And as a result, you've got some people who believe in the cause are cashing out, which is why the value of Bitcoin, as we're talking, hasn't increased that much. It's still comfort. I think it's in the 80s as we're talking right now. So it has recovered a little bit from its peak, but people are not too enthusiastic in the market over all this. The whole point of it being, traceable, non-traceable and non-regulatable is if you look to take those two things away, what do you do? And also how much you're actually going to invest in this. Are you going to start buying up Bitcoin before the conference? Because you'd be fairly sure that post summit, if there's a good announcement made, said Bitcoin will go to the moon. But also there is like 200,000 Bitcoin seized from the criminal underworld that the US government is kind of sitting on. So do you want to turn that into sort of the Bitcoin reserve, and that would be it. I think it's a fascinating story. I think this is, Trump might give the base a little bit of red meat on this. He might come out and say, yes, plans are afoot to develop our reserve. We're just going to find out how much we actually need, in what denominations, and we've got to be fair about this. I don't know. I think there will be a non-committal committal at the end of this.
I think it might be so, and maybe that's why it's being announced on a Friday afternoon. There's a great tradition in the world of law where if you're going to dump bad news, dump it late on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
So watch out on the timing there. Or it could be a case of, and this is what I kind of like, the thrill of Bitcoin, if you like, or cryptocurrencies. All right. It could also be that he's going to announce something good and it will shoot up in price over the weekend because unlike the stock market, Bitcoin is on sale 24/7. And then he'll do something else on Monday that will send the jitters up everybody, and that will lead to a price collapse and everything.
Yeah.
So, again, if for the crack, if you've got 100 quid, just get on Revolut on your phone and just buy 100 quid's worth of Bitcoin and then sell it on Monday morning and see what you make or lose. Yeah, whatever. It's like horse racing, whatever. Let's get on to our last big story of the week, and that is Mobile World Congress, which has been happening this week in Barcelona. No one ever gives us an invite to go to Barcelona. It's terrible.
No.
Well, who wants to go in February anyway? So, what kind of stuff have we been learning from MWC this year?
Yeah, well, you kind of have to look to the broad trends at MWC, and I found a couple, right? But I'm going to give a shout out to Samsung first and foremost. So let's sandwich this with Samsung news. Samsung they've not released, but they've shown off Project Muhan, which is an XR, an extended reality headset, right? A headset for spatial computing, to borrow a term from their immediate competitor, Apple. This is their answer to the Vision Pro, the headset that Apple allegedly is no longer making.
Allegedly, yeah, but they're still doing stuff with it. Interestingly, but go on.
Yeah, I'd say the apps are still going, but there are no plans to do another version of it.
Yeah.
This was to be sort of version 1 was, as we know, $3,500 developer friendly. Go forth and make something that we can actually use with this. Has not happened, and of course Samsung have now come out, and we don't have prices or anything like it on this.
I was about to ask.
It's like, here's an Android powered version of that. Go have some fun with it. Now we don't know what this will actually cost when it goes to market, how it will be seeded with developers. We don't know anything about it, but they just went, there's something interesting in that, in what Apple has been trying to do. Something in there, and I think we can do it better.
Do you think Samsung's Project Muhan is just a copy for the time being of Apple's Vision Pro?
I think it will be I don't say stripped back, because I think there are things that the Vision Pro is famous for, like the eyes showing through on the screens, which I don't think we'll be getting. Although if they're leaning into extended reality over purely virtual reality, maybe there's something to it.
You're starting to think now, aren't you? Going,
I'm starting to think maybe I do want to play with this.
Grant. Well, listen, we got some more goodies that Samsung released at Mobile World Congress, which is kind of like it's the big show specifically for mobile phones and laptop makers. And the great thing about it is they don't have to do their own big announcements and stuff like that. Lenovo traditionally used this quite a lot. They have been talking about their ThinkBook with a codename Flip.
Yeah. Now you mentioned your Lenovo Yoga, I think the model is, where you can flip the screen.
Yeah. And they've had that for ages. No, I have a Samsung, and that's what it does. Yeah,
right, okay. Well, Lenovo have been doing something very similar, but what their codename Flip thing does, and I actually think this is pretty cool. Well, one of the trends that we've seen are at MWC this year is like either elongated or 3-point screens, and Flip is a laptop with a 3-point screen where it will literally flip up from behind, so you've basically got a double screen, and you can flip up to get an extra screen on top of the screen you're already using, so you have a much taller screen than your laptop would be.
So it's like having two laptop screens, one on top of the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I suppose that's a good thing. I mean, one thing that has been selling, and I see it's for sale all the time, is second screens for laptops. And there's all kinds of stupid contraptions for being able to sit it beside it, or you can attach it onto the laptop screen. It would drive you completely nuts. Never been a fan of them, but nice to doing that. Lenovo also announced a solar-powered laptop. Now, I think this is, I was going to say a gimmick. It's not something that they're actually putting out on sale, but I think it's a great idea. Okay? In some ways, it's a solar-powered laptop. You can leave it in the sun for 20 minutes and get an hour's worth of juice. Okay? So if you were to leave your laptop in the sun for an hour, you would get 3 hours worth of juice. Fantastic. Problem is, would you leave a laptop in the sun for an hour? They must have thought something of that. Do you know what I mean? It's But it's a bit weird. How are those, kind of solar panels, how is behind, because it's all so thin, how is the heat not going to go through, so that's one thing. And then I immediately thought, well, that's a stupid idea here anyway. We've had 2 weeks, we didn't see any sunshine at all, which, is a good point. But I did an interview on one of our other podcasts with a guy who runs solar-powered farms in Ireland. And I was like, are you mad? And he goes, actually, no. He says, because those solar panels will work even on cloudy days. He said, so no, it still works really, really well. And then I noticed that just north of Dublin Airport, because the odd time I'm flying, I'll see them as I'm arriving or departing, there are huge solar farms north of Dublin Airport. And it looks like flooded fields or whatever, but when you kind of look at it closely, or if you look it up on Google Maps, you realise that it's like acres and acres of solar panels. So I think that could be a good idea. But then, I've also seen other solar-powered things that you can buy solar panels on Amazon, and I'm kind of half tempted to do it just to try it out, where you just have them sitting up, looking at the sun or whatever it happens to be, and then you can plug in either a battery or if you want to directly charge a device or whatever, you do it that way. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. I think it's interesting where you have an electronic device with solar panels on it, so you never have to recharge it.
That's the dream.
That's the dream. Let's wrap it up then with the other Samsung that you were thinking of.
Yeah, there's you were looking at the A56.
It's the phone that I was mentioning to you. Yeah, all right, yeah, the A56, they announced it as well. This is kind of their mid-range phone. Bigger screen, 6.7 inches, which is as big as the best of them these days. They made it a little bit thinner. They put better cameras into it. It's still mid-range stuff, but it's a really nice phone. 500 quid.
Yeah.
Not bad.
I'd also like to give a quick shout out to the Huawei Mate XT, which is their triple screen fold-out phone. This is, I think we're going to see more of these, certainly at the concept phase. Just at the sort of, look what can be done. We can make phones this thin kind of thing, because with the Samsung Fold, with the Galaxy Fold, they are quite chunky. If you can do something like that, that's much thinner, with a crease that isn't that visible, you're probably onto something.
I think the crease only becomes really visible on those things when it's not lit up.
Yeah.
Do you know, when it is lit up, I don't think you notice the crease on them. But yes, every time I hold one, it's kind of like, it's ridiculous to think, because they are making them almost as thin as regular candy bar phones, but you can it still feels chunky. It's like a Yorkie. And on that note,
the Yorkie of smartphones.
On that note, let's wrap up the news for this week. Niall, as always, thanks for filling us in.